Dave Birkett here with Shawn Windsor after another Lions loss. Shawn, seems like we talk all the time after losses now. 8 straight for the Lions, 27-17 to the Broncos here. And
why are we smiling, by the way? That's not fair to the fans at home. It's not,
there's one game left. That's why we're almost done.
Okay, that's fair.
Because we're out of things to talk about. I mean, I was thinking as we were walking down this hallway here to shoot our video, award-winning video, Freep.com, Facebook Live, kind of what we were going to talk about. And look, Matt Patricia's future's been decided, at least in the near term. Bob Quinn's future's been decided. The games don't matter a whole lot. I think really the only thing that's left is draft positioning. Where are the Lions going to go? How high or how low are they going to end up at?
Well, that's kind of what was on the mind of a lot of people today, and rightly so. It's still an entertainment business, and you got to have something. And I wrote in my second column tonight that you want. I think the Lions, in some way, not the players, maybe not the coaches, but the organization wants fans to be rooting for a loss here because the alternative is indifference, and indifference is the coach killer in terms of careers and a GM and that sort of thing. So I think that at least, hey, look, the fact that a lot of folks are thinking about next April, and here we are, a few days before Christmas. That's not a great sign in terms of winning and losing.
No.
But at least it shows that the passion is still there, which is what we talk about all the time.
It's like anything. You can sell hope in the future, right? And this group of Lions doesn't want to do that. I mean, a couple players were asked. I asked Trey Flowers a little bit about that in the locker room, and I know Kerryon Johnson was asked about that. Matt Patricia was asked about that, I think, during his press conference. Just, does that future ever cross your mind? And what do you make of people, the general public, us, talking about this? This is offensive. I think I was talking with Trey Flowers about that for a minute, and they realize that this is what fans in media cling on to. But I think everyone out there understands that this is the farthest thing from their mind. I mean, they're still playing to win games, and Frank Ragnow even said it. He said, "Look, we need to win in the worst way, right? And we need to try to get one against Green Bay." I think that sentiment was there in the locker room. Now they're extremely short-handed. I don't know that they're going to be able to get one, but there's no doubt that this team is still trying to get one on the field at least.
They want to win, even if it means you lose out on the Chase Young sweepstakes. I guess at least if it's if he goes to number 2, depending on what the Redskins, who've locked up the number 1 pick, depending on what, the Bengals.
Yep.
Depending on what they do. I mean, maybe they take Joe Burrow, the quarterback from LSU, but you're right. The players, they're not going to think about that. Kerryon Johnson said, "I don't ever want to deal with a draft again. I don't want to think about a draft." But at the same time, he does not begrudge everybody out there thinking about this and talking about this. He understands that. And Matt Patricia didn't quite use those words, but he felt like, look, he understands it's what is on the minds of everybody, but he feels like his team, even today a little bit, showed that they're not worried about that. And, he's certainly not worried about that. He's a trained coach. He's looking at film all week.
Look, it was a rough game for the Lions. I mean, they started out good, the first 10 points. They a nice drive to start the game. Field goal drive ended in a field goal, so it didn't get in the end zone. But then Jamal Agnew takes the punt back for a touchdown. But, 7 yards of offense.
At that point?
I said they might do it. I said, look at them. Is this going to be their day? Right. But then David Blau was David Blau, and they couldn't do anything on offense. And Denver scored on 5 straight possessions, so it sort of got away from them a little bit. And I don't want to jump too much into draft conversation here because we haven't studied this. I haven't talked to any of the scouts, the people that make decisions. But I know we were talking a little bit. Look, Joe Burrow, potential number 1 overall pick, right? Heisman Trophy winner from LSU. Since he needs a quarterback, I think it's easy to speculate that he could go there. Chase Young, the best prospect in the draft, he's probably going to go number 2, whether that's to Washington or Detroit. If the Lions win, the lowest I believe they can fall is number 5. Yeah, 5 in the draft order. The highest they can go is number 2. So you're looking at a pretty good player, a player that should have an impact. And whether it's Chase Young, whether it's Jeff Okudah, I know you were talking about him a little bit as maybe being the plan B, I guess, or the 1A that could really help this defense as well. And I agree with you, too. I think if it's not Chase Young, I think he's the next best option.
And there are a couple other guys that may grade out higher, depending on who you talk to. The Judy, the receiver at Alabama, for example.
Really good player.
There's an offensive lineman or two that may grade out.
Defensive tackle from Auburn.
And if you want to take a chance with Tua, not that the Lions do, I mean, he might be up there. But the idea is Quinn and Patricia have to win next year.
Right.
An offensive lineman is not going to come in. And, I mean, Ragnow was pretty good as a rookie in a way. But don't you want a cornerback? I mean, there's a lot to learn from the college level to the pro level, but a guy like Okudah could come in and maybe not make a huge impact, but help immediately.
No, I think he would have the biggest impact in all likelihood after Chase Young. I mean, there's some good safeties out there too. Grant Delpit from LSU could end up being a pretty high draft pick. But to me, it's Okudah. The one thing that you mentioned to a quarterback that high, at the end of the day, the Lions aren't going to be able to take a quarterback because of this, the need to win now. Maybe it would be in the best interest of the team, though. I mean, to have a young quarterback to draft and develop, it's not always that you're picking this high in the draft, so you don't always get that caliber of player if the medicals check out. The one thing I will say, if the Lions are number 3, that might be a really good spot for them because maybe there's a team that wants to go up and get Tua. Maybe the Miami Dolphins need to go up. Maybe that's a way for Bob Quinn to restock the cupboards in a quicker fashion. The one thing that, I think we'd have to, hold their feet to the fire about or that we'll have to be wary of is how low do the Lions go? I mean, maybe if the best offer is to go down to, let's just say 8 and throw a number out there or 10 and throw a number out there, right? Can the Lions afford to do that being on the hot seat or does Bob Quinn have to go from 3 to 4, so he can still get that sort of impact?
That's really up to the Fords, right? I know they kind of passed out their mandate, but you think, okay, Okudah might be there at 5 or 6 or even 7.
Potentially.
Just depends on what teams ahead of them, what they want, what they need, because there's 6, 7 guys in there, 5, 6 guys in there that are similar talent level. God, it is intriguing to go get a guy like Tua, though, isn't it?
He was going to be the number 1 pick in the draft if he didn't get hurt, or number 2 at worst.
I don't know. He's not quite Lamar Jackson in terms of the running. But have you seen a guy throw a ball like that?
He's accurate. He's got a big arm. He's a good player.
There's something going on with him a little. There's something about him a little bit that's it's tempting. But the problem is Stafford's going to play. He's got
3 years left on his contract.
Right, but at this level, he's got. You would think he'd be able to play at that level for the remainder of his contract.
I agree. And ultimately, again, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Stafford's going to be this team's quarterback for the foreseeable future. So in all likelihood, they're not going to take a quarterback. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they'll investigate. I'm sure they'll feign some interest. Maybe they can trade. But win now means that's going to be a very difficult thing to do. But look, again, you don't get the opportunity to take that type of quarterback very often. And being number 2, number 3, and even number 5 in the draft, maybe you have that opportunity. And so that's something that the Lions will have to look into at the very least. And maybe, I don't know, that maybe that's something that this whole mandate comes back to bite the Lions on.
It could. On the other hand, and getting back to Okudah just for a second, and you never know, he's about 6'1", so he's not huge, but he's got long arms. He's got some ranginess about him for a guy who's 6'1", but he's got incredible makeup speed. His natural ability is cover one-on-one ability. It's as good as the draft has seen in a little bit. And there's some folks that think this guy's got a chance to be a Pro Bowl kind of player, right?
I think if you talk to scouts, he's probably. Look, Stingley from LSU is probably the best cornerback in college football. I think most people. He's a freshman, so he's not draft eligible. But Okudah is a pretty rare talent. It's not always that you see cornerbacks go in the top 5. He's the type of guy that I think would be worthy of that.
And if you turn around and you look here, you see there's a name up here in the Ring of Honor, Champ Bailey.
Yeah.
Who was part of I think he was part of a couple Super Bowl teams here, wasn't he? Along back on or was he gone by then?
No, I think he was with that team that play could be wrong. I don't know my Broncos history, but I think he was.
In any case, those kind of players, I'm not saying he'd be Champ Bailey.
They don't have the years up there.
But those kind of players can be huge impacts. And defensive ends, obviously Chase Young, we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But you look at the Super Bowls, and I was trying to tell, talking to you about this a little bit earlier, a lot of the top number 1, number 2, number 3 picks that are edge rushers, they don't end up in Super Bowls. It's not their fault. It's like J.J. Watt. It's not his fault he's not in the Super Bowl, but these kind of guys, for whatever reason, don't play in a lot of Super Bowls, although Nick Bosa, last year's number 2 pick for the 49ers, could very well end up in
that defense.
Yeah, absolutely. But Jadeveon Clowney. You just think about all these guys. I don't know
well,
why. I'm not saying there's a reason. I have no idea why.
Look, Aaron Donald, pretty good defensive lineman, not an edge rusher, but pretty good. Yeah, but he was in a Super Bowl last year. He's the best defensive lineman in the game. If you're drafting the best defensive lineman in the game, maybe you can get that sort of payoff at the end of the day. And for the Lions, the other thing, I guess, to your point would be look at the way the New England Patriots play their defense. I mean, and this is what Matt Patricia does. They want 6 and 7 defensive backs on the field. And why the Patriots defense has been so good this year is because Stephon Gilmore, really the entire secondary
got the best cornerback in football,
has been good all season long. So if the Lions can develop that. Now, the other thing, though, Darius Slay, who knows how this impacts him, because I still am. I still think Slay's probably playing his last game as a Lion next week.
Really? Because if they have to win now, why would they let go of
well, look, you still got to pay Darius Slay. So, and Slay wants $15 million a year. He's not going to show up in the spring again. I thought he played well today. I mean, I do my stock watch. He's playing a good receiver in Cortland Sutton, and Sutton had 4 catches, I think. Slay did a good job. He had the 1 pass interference penalty, but he's playing well still. He's going to be 29 years old. I think from a purely business standpoint, I don't know that the Lions will want to give him a new deal at 29 years old. Maybe they're forced to because of where they stand. But look, if you have Okudah, if you spend some money and you get a Byron Jones, you trade Slay, you get some draft pick compensation. I think maybe there's a case to be made for that too. That remains to be seen. That'll play out here in the next couple months. But that's just kind of what my gut tells me right now.
Yeah, so nothing really about what happened on the field today.
Nothing at all about on the field.
They competed, right? They're professionals. They tried hard.
Yeah.
Right, pretty much.
The try-hard Lions. That's what they are.
They had a lead in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth.
They blew a 10-point lead again.
Story
of the try-hard Lions.
All right.
Kind of like a girls' basketball team or something like that. My girls' basketball team. They try hard.
That's your message.
It is. Yeah.
It's a good message.
Yeah.
Right?
Not when you're in the NFL. You got to win games. It's not about trying hard.
No,
but
you're right.
That's all right.
That's true.
That's all right. That's where we stand. 1 game left next week against the Green Bay Packers, and then again 4 months of draft talk left ahead because we know everything else going on about this team. We know the coaches are back. There'll be a defensive coordinator change, but we know just about everything else.
Last little quick thing just to set up next weekend. The Redskins could play in Dallas. Dallas lost today to the Eagles, so they're going to be playing for a playoff spot, which means they have a lot more motivation, which is probably not good for the Lions. That's going to be a tough ask for the Redskins. So the Lions, assuming they lose to Green Bay, are probably going to be at the number 3 spot.
Probably the number 3 spot. We don't know how Dak Prescott's shoulder is. I don't know. That was kind of weird. That was the phone behind us, I think. But maybe that's our signal that we should get rolling and wrap this up. So that'll do it from out here in Power Field at Mile High Stadium, where the Lions lost their 8th straight game to the Denver Broncos. For Shawn Windsor, I'm Dave Birkett, Freep.com.